guys, good morning. Welcome back to another video, and today it's just me. Basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna have a sit down and I'm gonna give you my story. I know a lot of you guys wonder about the story between myself and Emma's other parent, and I wanted to sit down and kind of give the story. A couple reasons why is I feel like it's my story to share, right? It happened to me and it's my story, it's my life, and it's things that have transpired in my life, and I feel like for a way for all of us to get to know each other better, even though we've been doing YouTube for quite some years, I've always questioned sharing my story. I've always wanted to. And I first want to say that, of course, there are always two sides to any story. While I do this sit-down video, I want to make sure that I don't fabricate any side of the story because I want my story to be the truth. So that's where we're going to start. There are two sides of the story. There are always people thinking it happened a different way, or people thinking that it happened this way or that way. What I know are the facts, and what I can share are the facts, and what I can share is why I made the decisions I made. I'm gonna start back with high school graduation. I graduated high school in 1995, which made me 18. And as soon as I graduated, I moved out of my parents' home. I was working 3 jobs at the time, and I worked at Major Magics, which is kind of like a Chuck E. Cheese. I worked a retail store in the mall, and then I also worked at a laser tag place. So I felt like I was sufficient enough to move out on my own. I did have very strict rules growing up, and I wanted out of the house when I turned 18. And so I got an apartment, and I had to wait for the apartment to come available. It came available early. So anyways, in 1995, seems like a long time ago, in 1995 I moved out. I was going to be 19 that November. And during that time I switched jobs, and I got a job as a bartender at, if you'd want to say, a little dive bar. They had like 25-cent wing nights, 50-cent beer night. I did really well there, made very good money, and I had a blast. I met a lot of people, and I still had a lot of my friends from high school that I hung out with. And one night, and yes, I will state that I was a bar girl, I was a club girl. I enjoyed going to the clubs Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday nights with my friends to dance and just have a good time. I decided to go out to the club with a couple of my friends. They brought friends, and so in 1999, which would make me 23, I met Emma's other half. You know, I thought he was cute, I thought he was good looking. I was like, oh, who's this? You know, we kind of hit it off. That night we went to Denny's, which some of you may not know, or may know what a Denny's is. It's a restaurant. And we all just kind of hung out and sat and talked, and then everyone left one by one, and then it was kind of just me and him hanging out talking, and come to find out that he knew my family and relation to my family, and actually went to the same high school but graduated a couple years before me, and I didn't know anything about him. So we had a birthday party. I had a family birthday party to go to the following couple weekends after that, so I decided to invite him and bring him just to see the surprise on everyone's face, because they didn't know that we had met and yada yada. So brought him to the event. Everyone kind of hit it off. Relationship was going great. We decided to plan a wedding. He was working at a granite company, so he cut and polished granite, making a decent living, and I was now a property manager for an apartment community, and I was making really good money. So we decided, you know, let's get married and you know, make this official and whatever. So in 2001, which would make me 25 years old. He's 4 years older than me, so that would make him 29 when we got married, and I was 25. So we got married, had a great wedding. After we got married, we bought our first house together. We had to have my parents' help to kind of get the down payment on the house and whatnot. So I feel like because my parents helped us get the down payment, I felt like possibly my parents felt like they had kind of say in how we remodeled the home. That's a whole nother topic and whatever, but just to give you a little bit, it was kind of like a four-way relationship in our marriage, that we ate dinner at my parents' house a lot because we all know I don't cook. And he didn't cook either. So we just kind of hung out with my parents a lot and had a great relationship with my parents. I was pretty close with my mom, never really close with my dad. My dad wasn't really ever close with anyone, but he was around. We did some work on the house, and then we got into some financial trouble. We struggled financially. Him and I both enjoyed, I need to back up. Before I explain the financial trouble, prior to us getting married, we actually lived in Arizona for 3.5 years before we got married. My property management company moved me to Arizona, and I managed some condos in Cottonwood and Sedona area, and we lived out there for 3.5 years. And during that time, there are Indian reservation casinos. They were really near. They were very close. And we ended up going and kind of gotten into some financial instability going to the casinos, so don't gamble. At that time, I knew that financially we were not gonna make it, so I had requested that we move back home. My management company moved me back home, and a week after we moved back, I got fired. And during that time, since we moved to Arizona, her father did not have a job, so my company also hired him to work for the same company. So when I got fired, he got fired, and therefore neither of us had a job when we moved back home. He went back to his granite company, and I went back to another property management company, and then we were making decent money, but we were still in the hole. We all know that once you're in the hole with credit card debt and mounting debt, it's very hard to get out of that hole. But the hole didn't really show up until after we had Emma. Back to what I was saying. So in 2001, which would make me 25 years old, we got married and decided to have our first child. And I couldn't get pregnant. So we had to go to the doctor, and I was put on a hormone therapy to be able to conceive. I had to take it a couple times, and then in obviously 2003, I conceived Emma. And during the pregnancy, things were still okay. Financial problems were working themselves out a little bit. One of the reasons the financial situation was working itself out is because we took out a home equity loan. Don't ever do that. Do not ever take out a home equity loan on your home. Like, just don't. And that gave us a lot of cash. And that lot of cash was supposed to be spent on the home because you needed to increase the value of your home so you can make the money back. And we didn't. Of course, we went to the casino while I was pregnant with Emma, and we did put windows and stuff in the house, but that was it. And we got a garage door, a new garage door, but we didn't put the rest of the money in. We used it to pay bills, to get out of debt, and to go to the casino. And so then we had this very large loan to pay back a couple years after we had Emma, and it was a nightmare. I know like this video feels like it's jumping around, but there's multiple things of why I'm adding these things into the video. So back to 2003, I had conceived Emma with her father, and we were excited because it was the first girl that was going to be born into the family as a grandkid. My grandma was excited because it was the first girl through the entire side of the family. So everyone was a little excited. Yeah, so Emma was born January 2004. Thing went downhill from there. You know, they say like baby changes everything, and it's definitely true. Her dad started playing video games a lot, and his video game of choice was Halo, because back in 2004, Halo was popular. So he played Xbox. So to give you a little bit of understanding, he had to be at work at 4 in the morning, and then he got off at 2. So those were his hours. I worked 8 or 9 to 5. So that was my schedule, and his schedule was 4 to 2. During that time, he became highly addicted to playing video games. And when I mean addicted, I mean he would go to work, he would get off at 2, and instead of going to get Emma from daycare, he would go home, he would eat whatever he needed to do, and then he would sleep. I would get off at 5:30, and then go get Emma from daycare, get home about 6:30. He would be asleep, or we would eat dinner, and then he'd go back to sleep. And then I would put Emma to bed about 9:30. He would get up about 9:30 and play Xbox until 4 in the morning, until he had to go to work. We never really seen him. If we did, he was either falling asleep or half asleep. On the weekends, he was always asleep. He was exhausted. I just remember Emma being about 3 weeks old and our neighbors complaining of our grass being too high. I had asked him to mow the grass and he refused because he didn't have time. So I put a backpack carrier on and I mowed the grass with Emma on my back, being 3 weeks old. I complained to my family and friends that I couldn't do this anymore. He's not helping out around the house. He's not helping with Emma. He's not helping get up at night. He's not helping clean. He's not doing anything. And I'm tired of it. And we would have parties or events like family get-togethers or whatever, and people would say he would fall asleep at these events. And I mean, we would draw write words on his face. He would never wake up. He was always asleep at family events. He was never present. And I just got tired of it, and I kept telling myself, if I'm gonna be a single mom, I might as well be a single mom. It was so bad that I would go to the resale shops with my grandma and my aunt, and I would ask him to watch her, and he would beg me and tell me not to leave her home with him because he didn't know what to do with her. Just take her with you. I'm like, I can't go shopping with my grandma or my aunt, not take her. Like, it's so much easier just to leave her here. You're home. Why can't I? No, you just need to take her. My grandma was confused. My aunt was confused. Everyone didn't understand why he couldn't be home alone with her. It just continued over, the year and a half. And I had told everyone that I was at my wit's end and didn't want to do it anymore. And it was just too stressful. And if I was going to be single, I might as well be single and not have to take care of another child. I was in my girlfriend Casey's wedding. This was the last straw for me. I was in my girlfriend Casey's wedding, and she had a limo pick us up to take us to get our hair and makeup done. So I left Emma at home asleep in her crib. We left at like 7 o'clock in the morning. Emma usually got up about 8:30. So I said, please make sure you get up and take care of her until I get back. And he said, I will. I put the baby monitor on full blast by his ear. Everything. There was about 6 of us at the hair salon, and we were getting our hair done, and I kept trying to call and no one would answer, and I thought that was very weird. So I decided to ask everyone to get back in the limo so we could go to my house to find out why he isn't answering the phone. And you got to remember, back in that day, we did not have cell phones. We had pagers, but no cell phones. So if you didn't answer the home phone, there was no way of getting a hold of someone. So we all drove back. I could hear Emma screaming outside the house when we got out of the limo. I went upstairs. She was covered in vomit. Mind you, this is now at noon. She was covered in throw up, urine, feces, screaming, pale white, blue lips, just screaming her head off. And he is still asleep in bed. And their rooms were just across from each other. They weren't downstairs. They weren't, you know, this way. They were just across the hall. I woke him up. I honestly think I slapped him in the face, told him he was a piece of work, other words that I can't use here on YouTube, and told him that our marriage was over. I could not believe that he left a 4 or 5 months old at that time, 6 maybe, about probably 6 or 7 months old, her screaming, no food, no milk, no nothing, no diaper change, no nothing for, she probably got up at 8, 9, all because he chose to play a video game late that night. And it was a weekend, so I told him he should go to bed because he had to take care of Emma. So long story short, that was it for me. I had told everybody, I had told my friends, I had told my family, I can't do it no more. I can't be the one to take care of the house. I can't be the one to take care of the finances. I can't be the one to deal with the stress of the finances and raising Emma on my own and all of that stuff. I just didn't want to do it anymore. But I didn't know how to go about ending it, right? So I decided to go to therapy, and I started going to therapy for myself and to talk about things. And I had a conversation with her father and told her that things were not working out, and I didn't see how they were gonna work out. And he had threatened me, I guess, gaslit me, and said that if I take her and leave, he would do harm to himself. I believed it because his father had done the same story. So I did believe it. And I was worried, so I needed to talk to the counselor about that and share my thoughts and my feelings about how I felt like I didn't want to be responsible for someone's life, but I didn't want to do what I was doing anymore. There's a lot of other things that go into this story. I mean, it was years of being ignored and not having attention. It was while I was pregnant and just not getting stuff done around the house and just not helping out, not putting in his half and not putting in his share. So it just kind of added up. But back to the story. I had told everyone that I just didn't know how I was going to go about and do it. And so I was talking to my therapist about it. I had friends at work. So mind you, I was a property manager for 4 apartment communities. So basically I was a district property manager. I traveled around from community to community, and each one had their own staff. Those staff were my friends. We all hung out. We all loved and cared for each other. Amy, my best friend, she worked for me. Andrew, Kenny, all these people worked for my company under me. And we just became best friends. We ate lunch together every day. Amy had a daughter the same age as me. Amy lived across the street from me. And yeah, so we were all just best friends. And Mark, during this time, was a construction supervisor for the same company. And he came into town to flip my apartment communities. And what I mean is taking a rundown apartment complex and making it a luxury apartment complex by redoing the entire building, hallways, entire units, ACs, flooring. So he was a construction supervisor that was in charge of all these crews that flipped units for us. And we all hung out together. We all went out together. We went to dinner together. We went to lunch together. And that's just how it was. It was a great relationship at work. I knew that Mark had gone through a divorce himself. So I was talking to him about how the divorce works and what am I going to lose? Am I going to lose Emma? You know, I had no idea. I was naive. I was young. I had not a clue. I had never been married. I had never been divorced. I had never had a kid. And I had no idea. I had gone to my therapist, and I had told my therapist the day that I was going to tell him I was leaving him. And then I wanted to do it in the office because I didn't want to be responsible for his life. And I wanted my therapist to be able to talk to him if he needed someone. So I don't remember what day of the week it was. It had to have been a Friday. And I asked him to meet me at my therapist's office. I was nervous. Still actually brings up butterflies just because I know how my life has been since this day. And I met him at the therapist. Emma was still at daycare. My friends wished me luck. We're talking, and the therapist back and forth, back and forth. I was letting him know that, you know, it wasn't gonna work. I didn't want to be married to him anymore. And he stood up, and when he stood up, he had something in the back of his hands. And he was like digging it out. And my therapist and I, honest to God, thought he had something else. And I think I was frozen solid, and so was my therapist, and he whipped out papers. Those papers were a printed profile of my MySpace, because mind you, this is still in 2004, 2005. Instagram wasn't a thing. Facebook was just starting up. The thing was MySpace. He had a printout of my MySpace that someone had given him and said I was having an affair on him. And I said, I laughed. I said, you are definitely out of your mind. I am not having an affair. Show me where it says. And one of the messages was, I had posted on Mark's page, Mark's MySpace. Thank you for the conversation. Thank you for listening. Can't wait for you to be back in town. Love you. Okay? I tell Amy to this day, love you. I told Andrew and Kenny, love you guys, when we left for the weekend. Same thing I said to Mark before we were even dating. All of my friends. It just is how I spoke to people. And I laughed and chuckled and thought, you got to be kidding me, because I love all my friends. It's love you. I didn't say like, I freaking love you so much or whatever. And I said, we're friends. I was speaking to him about divorce and how his went and what happened in XYZ. I'm like, we're friends. We're all friends. And he's like, you're a gardening tool. You're this. You're a slushie. You're this. You're that. And you're going to pay for this. You will never see your daughter again. And I thought to myself, in that moment, can it be true? Can he take her from me? Can he keep her from me? For a man that wanted nothing to do with her, for a man that couldn't be alone with her, can he do it? And he had help, of course. He had people helping, and to give a good example, I called the daycare. So he stormed out of there. I called the daycare to make sure Emma was still there, and he hadn't picked her up or took her anywhere. And lo and behold, somebody had already picked her up. The daycare apologized, and they said they're sorry. They had no idea. They didn't know that this was going to be a problem or an issue. And yeah, I spent that day alone fighting for my daughter. She was basically kidnapped from me, held hostage. And when I found out where she was, I had went there and asked for her back. Let me back up. Amy, again, I said Amy, my friend, had a kid. So I didn't ask Amy to help me. Kenny and Richard and all of them, Andrew and all of them had their own kids, like grown kids. They were grown men. So I asked Mark, and I should also preface, Mark was a traveling construction supervisor, so he did not live in my town. He only came in Monday through Friday, and then he left on Friday. And that's why I said, can't wait to see you back Monday or whatever. I asked Mark if he would go with me and not leave town because I had no one else to help me. No one else to help me figure out how to get her back, what to do, where to go. And I asked him if he would stay in town, which thank God he did, because I had nobody. And who knows how that would have ended for me, because I had just had my child stolen from me. This is all happening in 2005, by the way. Emma is 1. Mark drove me to where Emma was being held hostage, and he was yelling, and not yet, Mark wasn't. Got there, Emma's father was yelling and screaming and calling me all the names in the book. I had received some phone calls from some other people giving me death threats, and death threats to Mark. Calling me every name in the book as well, and no one wanted to listen. No one could comprehend that you can tell your friends you love them love ya. But so I finally spoke to Emma's father and I said, listen, you never wanted anything to do with her. You're always asleep. Let me take her. And he got up in my face and did like a, you will never see her again, you know? Friend Amy had filled me in and said, that's actually assault. Whether it hurt or not, he can't touch you. So I, myself, and Mark, my friend at the time, slept in our car waiting for the court to open Monday morning. I went down to the court system, filed the paperwork that he had pushed me in the nose and threatened that I would never see her again. Because I do want to preface, I did call the police and the police told me you can't steal your own kid. So even though she wasn't at home with him, she was at someone else's home, the police said, you cannot steal your own kid, therefore I can't do anything. So after he had came out and got in my face and told me I'd never see her again and that I'm a worthless piece of crap and whatever else was thrown at my way, other people were getting out trying to fight Mark, which Mark sat and said nothing. Mark was only there to drive me because I couldn't drive. I was so distraught to get Emma back, and he was my friend at that time. So we slept in the car, waited for the court system to open. I filed the paperwork. They granted me immediate custody until we could have a hearing, which was 15 days after that date. I took the paper back to where their hideout was and showed them the paper and said, please let me have Emma back. As she was upstairs in a window screaming for me, mommy, mommy, like just bawling, screaming. I'm like, do you see your kid? Can you please just give her to me? We will figure out visitation, whatever. And he said no. I said, I have a letter. If you don't give her to me, I have to call the police and they're going to come in and they're going to take her from you and it's going to be traumatic for her. Can you please just give her to me? He said, give me the paper. I said no, because I knew he wasn't going to give me the paper back. A few other people came out to read the paper, screamed at me, cussed at me, asked me if I felt good about myself, stuff like that, But I got big shoulders, I can take it. And finally, I had to call the police. The police had to go in and get her and bring her to me. I buckled her in the car, and while we were pulling away, I was getting screamed at, yelled at. The police said, I told you guys not to come out. They did anyways. Anyways, I finally got her. I didn't have a place to stay because the home on where her father resided was in his name, and I didn't want to take the chance of him coming back there. Emma and I stayed with Mark in the hotel. At this time, I didn't have any other option. I know some of you would be saying, yes, you did. I know you did. But the honest answer is I did not have any other choice. So we stayed in the hotel a couple of days and I found myself an apartment. I had the police do a civil standby while I went in and got half of my stuff, Emma's stuff, half of my stuff. And we got it in a U-Haul. Actually, all my employees from work helped. My boss said that it was okay for us to close for the day. They all came and helped load up the U-Haul. It was Kenny, Andrew, Rick, Mark, the two other girls' names, I can't think of who they were, and then Amy. We all loaded up the car, whatever, the U-Haul, whatever we could, and I moved into my apartment. That's kind of where we were at. The fight in court was rough. It lasted a long time, costed a lot of money. It was a lot of angry, bitter fights over stupid things. I was awarded alimony. I didn't take it. I didn't want it. I didn't want his money. I was awarded child support. I did take the child support. And Emma and I lived on our own. So at that time, let's see, that'd be 2000. That was 2005 to 2006-ish. So for almost a year and a half, you know, I stayed working at my company, and then Mark and I started dating. I know a lot of people will say, well, then that means you were cheating because you guys were already together, but we weren't together then. I feel like Mark and I's acquaintance and friendship was forced. We were already friends, right? But I feel like we became closer because of the situation that was put upon us, and because of things he was being accused of and the things that I was being accused of from people that were very close to me. And it just kind of pushed us together because we are all that we had, right? I mean, he had his own people, but for me, he was all I had. So he helped me move into my apartment. Mind you, he was still traveling back and forth till the company could give him a permanent position in town after we started dating, of course. But anyways, court drug out long time. Of course, he got visitation. I did try staying local, but it didn't work out. There was lots of spying and strange things occurring, and like phone calls every single day and threats every single day. And he had people helping him with financial. There were people giving him money. There were people giving him advice. People were fighting to take her from me from day one, and they were like helping him, and it just, there was a lot that I'm not going to get into because the story is just about her father and what happened. But in the end, we got visitation, and it was okay for Emma in the beginning, and maybe one day Emma will have a sit down and share this video on her own in her own terms, and Emma could get on here and quote if I say something out of line. But when she would go for visitation, she really wasn't with him. She was with other people. He would drop her off, she would stay there, and I was getting annoyed because I felt like, listen, if I'm giving up my time to be with my child, for her to be with her father, she should be with her father, not other people. And I guess that didn't matter. As she grew up, she got tired of the lies. She got tired of the secrets. She got tired of the being shipped to people's houses, not her father's. She really never had a relationship with her father. They were never close. And I feel like that is kind of why they do not have a relationship at this point. I had always said from day one I would never lie to Emma, and I would tell her the truth of how everything happened and who was involved and all of it, like every detail. And when Emma was about 12 or 13, she asked, and I told her everything. I showed her everything. I had emails and texts and letters and photos and voicemails, and this wasn't just one day sit down with a 12-year-old, 13-year-old. This was multiple times that she would bring it up and we would talk about it. She had decided that she didn't want a relationship anymore. She was being forced to go. The police were going to have to be called to drag her out of the car. She would hold on to the car seat. She didn't, the seat in front. She didn't want to go. And it just kind of became a big nightmare and a mess, and it went on and on and on. So my last ditch effort was, if I talked to him and told him if I stopped taking child support, would he stop, forcing her to go for visitation? And he said yes, immediately. I said, okay. I signed the papers immediately to stop taking child support. And she was 13 years old when that happened, and he disappeared. And that's the story. There's a lot of other information that I will one day share. I will share in detail. Because I feel like it's my story to tell. And it's only my story to tell. It has been in me to share this because I do try to be very open and forward and relate to people. And you know, if this video can help anyone understand the struggles that we went through, the issues that I dealt with, the life bantering for 13 years, the name calling, threatening to take her, threatening to run away with her, threatening everything. This can give you a glimpse of what I went through. And I do have emails, and I have texts, and I have voicemails. I have so much that I had never gotten rid of. I have always kept. And the reason I kept it all is because I wanted to keep it in case Emma ever asked. I didn't want to be made out to be a storyteller. I didn't want to be made out to be a liar. I wanted to make sure that I had the receipts, as you would call them today. I hope that helps you understand a little bit of the history of where I and Emma came from, and where, you know, how everything transpired, and yeah, why she doesn't have a relationship with her dad currently right now. Maybe someday when they're older, I don't know. I don't think that she will ever want to speak to him, but she's her. She's an adult now, and she has every right to you know, want to speak to him because he is her father. But the amount of heartbreak that we both endured, the amount of suffering and name calling and gaslighting and narcissistic behavior from multiple situations and multiple things happening to us, I don't know if she ever will. Emma is once I trust you, you break it, you're done. She doesn't ever accept you back. Why doesn't Emma this? Why doesn't Emma talk to this person? Why doesn't Emma talk to this person? Why doesn't Emma talk to this person? Answer your own question by saying, once you do Emma dirty and you cause pain or hurt or, you know, lie, whatever, you're done. And I'm proud of her for that. So, anyways, I know this is a different video than what you guys are normally used to. I couldn't sleep at night. It just was really wearing on me to want to share. For those of you that listened, thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you guys for being amazing. Thank you for the sweet and pleasant comments I see on the channel on a daily from a lot of you guys. Your support means everything to me because I spent years with no support, and I treat you guys like my family. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I will continue this story someday soon, and I will see you guys tomorrow back in another video. Good night and goodbye.